comment. Actually, I'm a couple minutes late. Can everyone hear me? I thought you meant you were late last week. I'm usually not late on these lives, am I? We're walking from the Angelicum, which is interesting. I want to tell you in conjunction from yesterday's Roman Station Church. This is what would be called San Sisto Nuovo. However, now it's called Saints Dominic and Saint Sixtus, after Sixtus II. So yesterday for the Roman Station Church, we went to San Sisto Vecchio. Just want to check. Comment that you can hear. Okay, perfect. So yesterday we went to San Sisto Vecchio. So this San Sisto Nuovo was built in the 17th. And so the Dominicans wanted to move to this area. It is fading in and out, or is it just me? It's maybe it's my cell connection. Can you hear me? It's impossible. I don't know what the problem with Rome is. So the Dominicans moved. So last night I wanted to come on and I wanted to tell you about the fun conversation we had with the nun. Let me. I'm getting off of this hill. Maybe it's just clocked for a few. Let me get over beyond all of these stones. It could just be these stones. Who knows? Again, it's Rome. It's Italy. Beautiful sun today. Beautiful weather day, actually. Spring is arriving, it seems. Let's cross here. The nuns, it's running good now, last 20 seconds. Okay, so here we are. I think it's just the cell connection inside and around the Angelicum. So let's cross here. I think we've crossed here live on Instagram, but not on YouTube. We're crossing the Forum. This fun little... So let's talk about the nuns. Judy loved the nuns last night in the stories on Instagram. That nun, her name was Sister Maria Josephina. Yeah, look at this. I need to figure out what's going on all down here. There's kind of opening some of these areas. Scary, that just noise that made. Just let you take in the views, the sun, the light, the blues. Stand right here for a little bit. So last night we had this Sister Maria Josephina. So just so you know, San Sisto Vecchio, the reason why the video's not made yet is because I had never been to the church. And yeah, it's very beautiful today. I had not been to the church ever because we had never, in my time in Rome, there's never been the station there. And so, by the way, is the audio good? Because I'm not using the headphones because I listened back to the live the other day and it sounded like it was a bit, the connection was just a bit muffled. So I'm just kind of talking to you without headphones in. Hopefully that just picks up the audio in a clearer form. So let me know if it sounds better. If not, then I can switch to the headphones. But, okay, good. So here we are. Trajan Forum is over there. Then these all just sort of have different names of the forums. So this road is called the Via, the way of the Imperial Forums. And I actually don't know that much about the sort of structure of what was here. You can see obviously some forms of the structure here. But like I've said many times before, we take from Rome, from ancient Rome, the structure of the basilica. And you see it mostly over there with those columns, and especially that the Trajan Forum was very much the sort of classical basilica structure, which we know. So especially with the larger basilicas of the major papal basilicas, but also even the smaller ones, any of these ones with the central nave and the two side aisles with that basilica structure, and then with the apse, and then how this has been translated into Christian theology and symbolism as the church, the physical church building representing the mystical body of Christ, with Christ as the head and we as the members of the body, and having that mystical union within Christ and Christ's entire body. Last night, the Sister Maria Josephina, we started the head of the Academia, which is the people who are in charge of organizing the Roman station churches. He said, "Oh, go look in all the frescoes in the sanctuary." And so everyone was doing that, and then the sister comes and she starts saying, "Oh, Father said something wrong in the homily," and so she caught all of our attention by telling us that, and then she proceeded to tell us wasn't anything wrong. He had said in the homily that all of the treasures and the relics and everything of the saints from San Sisto Vecchio in the 1600s, late 1500s, 1600s, all of those relics were then transferred to the Angelicum, where we just started, which is just on the other side. You see that tower there, and just a little bit up, and that's the Angelicum. And it was San Sisto Nuovo. Now it's called Saints Dominic and Saints Sixtus, because they realized that at a certain point that there was no church in Rome dedicated to Saint Dominic. So they added Saint Dominic, the founder of the Dominicans, to the patronage of that church. She grabbed all of our attention by doing that last night. And then she proceeded to show us frescoes from, my shoes are untied again. I'm a mess. Hold on, let me tie my shoes. Hold on, let me actually set you up. I have the stand actually. I'll tie my shoes properly. Just look at can't really see anything, can you? I know, it's, I'm trying to wear comfortable shoes because my feet are killing me from, shouldn't you be doing that before the video starts, tying my shoes? Yeah, I know. This is my brother teasing me. I didn't realize my shoes were untied, Justin. Okay, I'm just trying to get you a good shot while I tie my shoes. It's focusing on the wire, isn't it? I'll double knot both of them so they are ready. Okay. I know. I just double knotted them, double tied them. There we go. Okay, so yesterday. So then she takes us into these two doors. Well, she took us into one door on the gospel side of the sanctuary, the left side of the sanctuary. And she showed us frescoes from the 11th and 12th century. And so and then there were some which were even a bit, well, no. There was one from like the 11th century, and then there were more added later on in the 1200s, and those were painted actually by Dominicans. These are I don't know what their formal name is, JJ, but they are they're pine trees. They're sort of we just call them umbrella pine trees. I don't know what the formal name is. There are two different types of trees really in Rome. Well, okay, there's more, but basic ones which are kind of everywhere. Along the river, there's a certain type of tree, and then there's these pine trees, and they're just absolutely beautiful. They're just iconic, especially when you get into, outside the city. Oops, where'd you go? Sorry, cancel. Trying to look at I don't see all your messages. Okay, so last night she takes us in. So there was one fresco. She was very keen about this, and this is when I was really inspired by her because she said there's one fresco that Saint Dominic would have looked upon, and so it's really beautiful to see these nuns who are children of these founders of these orders, and they have such a great devotion to their father in the order, in this case Saint Dominic. And she just had a very sort of, the tenor in her voice changed when she started talking about Saint Dominic, and just the sort of joy that she had knowing that he had looked upon this fresco. And then because this was a medieval, so the church last night was a 4th century church, the 5th century church originally, so from the 400s. And that was the original Paleo-Christian church, which was built there. The original Paleo-Christian church was built there in honor of Saint Sixtus II, who was, as I spoke yesterday in the live video, was the Pope during the time of Saint Lawrence, the deacon martyr, who was the 3rd patron of Rome. And Saint Sixtus was martyred. He was captured in the catacombs celebrating Mass and was martyred. And then I think that was August 6th. And then Saint Lawrence was martyred on August 10th, just a couple days after. And that's when the whole story of the life. So the church that we were at last night is historically the place where Saint Sixtus and Saint Lawrence basically said their farewell. And so that's why that church is there, commemorating that aspect of the life. And then later, after the church was built, then a century later, well, the church was built to house the relics of Saint Sixtus II. So this would have been, Saint Sixtus II was martyred in the 2nd century. And then he would have been buried in the catacombs of San Callisto, which is where he was celebrating Mass in secret in the catacombs where the Christians were buried. And then he was captured. Then, of course, he was buried there by Christians. All this stuff is done in a sort of illegal sort of way because Christianity was illegal. And then after the legalization of Christianity, the desire was to bring especially these prominent relics back to bring them into the city. And so St. Sixtus would have been, that church was built for his relics, and then his relics were brought into the city in the 5th century, in the 400s. And there's that church there. Then this other church where the frescoes would have been built it was a medieval building, and then the frescoes are from that period as well. And but then further, some other frescoes were also from the Dominican friars who were there already from the foundation of the Dominicans. This was their first spot in Rome, San Sisto. And then further, where did they go next? They went to, I don't know. I'll have to look it up again. I forget where their actual then further foundation was. But then what happened shortly after the foundation of the Dominicans? Then Saint Dominic desired nuns, and so it went from brothers there to nuns once the Dominican friars moved to another place. It's escaping my mind where they were. But then the Dominicans became a very large presence in Rome, thankfully. So she was telling, this is all stuff that she was telling us last night. And this nun had the most interesting way of capturing our attention. She was like almost posing for she knew I was filming and taking photos, and she was like posing. It was really cute. Let's see how far we can go down. I don't know oh no, that's closed. There are parts that I can go down in, so we'll have to do a live sometime and see where we can go. Let me see. Just always check and make sure. Yeah, okay, it's locked. So that's where I was standing. I was standing right there to start. Um, what else do I want to say? Uh, yeah, where's down there? Here, no. So this is the thing. Actually, they are making a new station, and they hope there's a whole new line in Rome called the C line. There's an A line and a B line. This will be the C line, and it operates basically to St. John Lateran, and then it goes outside the city from there. So they haven't managed to come into the city, really. They're working on it now, and they'll go to the Colosseum. So, oh, there you go. So the markings down there, yeah, let's zoom in. So all of that structure on the outside is to protect these buildings of the Forum. And then we've walked over by the Colosseum, and you've seen those. This is my sister's wedding song, 1,000 Years. You see the markings of the building of the new station at the Colosseum, which will connect the Lateran to the Colosseum, which will be huge because the Colosseum's on the B line and the St. John Lateran's on the A line. So if you can connect these two lines in a way that then people don't have to just go to the central train station, Termini, to switch lines, it will just change everything. And then they're hoping, big grand scheme of things, they're hoping that then the C line from the Colosseum will have another metro line that will come off there in front of this church. However, that's been ever since I've been in Rome. There was a sort of area over there that they had been working on. But when you're doing all these digs and trying to do this modern town management, whatever it's called, you find in Rome, you dig, you find something archaeological, and it stops, and things have to be examined. They have to wonder if they can do it. For example, in Piazza Venezia, that dome. Hold on. That dome is the Gesù. Yeah, I think that dome is the Gesù, the Jesuit church, and there's a tram line right there. That tram line has been here ever since I came the first time in 2011. And for them to just even put in that tram line, what they had to do, they have to check, all of the sort of vibrations that these trains are going to, cause on the city. And even doing that, digging not even that far, that deep, but doing all of those tests, they were stopped. And so these sorts of things, just imagine what it would be like to be the mayor of Rome, and all the other people in the city planning, that's what it's called, city planning, who have to worry about this stuff. Seems a bit blurry. Okay, what was I saying? So then the nun, she shows us all this one room, and then people start going away. And she's like, and then she comes out of the room. She's like, where is everyone? So then we were a select few who stayed and listened to her whole tour. So she's like, I have more to show you. So she showed us more frescoes. Then she showed us even a little bit later frescoes, one of St. Thomas and one of St. Peter the Martyr, who was a Dominican martyr. And then she showed us the refectory. So in some of the videos on the YouTube, is Judy still watching? Some of the videos on the YouTube, after she showed us those two rooms, she's then talking and saying, she's talking about Palermo, and she's talking about the foundress. So the foundress of her community, which is a missionary community of nuns, she... First off, let me just interject. This is this kind of beauty of the... good, Judy. This is the beauty of the Roman station churches. I thought of it last night especially because I encountered this nun, and my friend was actually given a tour by the 91-year-old... I don't know if she's the Mother General, but a 91-year-old nun who entered at the age 13. She's been a nun for, that means 68 years, more than that. 13 minus 91. 78 years she's been a nun, which is just crazy. And she looked like she was 60, just crazy how lively nuns are. Um, anyways, the beauty is we encounter these people who are just Roman. I mean, they're not Roman, all of them, but they love Rome and they live in Rome. They've lived in Rome for decades, some of them. And there's a woman, there's a bride and a groom on a, where are they? Where did they go? They were on a scooter. Right there. She's in her wedding dress. They're doing like pictures or something. So, what was I saying? Another one we met. She's here. She goes to most of the stations. She was talking last night about what the stations were like in the 60s. So she's been going to the station masses. I won't tell your husband that, Judy. No, there's something that there. Obviously, the life of a nun is very. It's a very healthy life. They have the ability to. They have freedoms which other women don't have, especially with the study and the leisure and it's very good. This is the problem, this is the problem with religious life when it gets bad, because it leads to a lot of not just spiritual unhealthiness, but physical unhealth. Well, spiritual unhealthiness is obviously the worst, but also physical unhealthiness and just things like that. Yes, and we value everyone who's living in the world. Or we should. Actually, you need to watch my YouTube video that I published really late last night on Santa Pudenziana, because the analogy of the mosaic, I think, is really important for all of us to listen and to just consider different vocations in the life of the church. So if you haven't watched that yet, make sure you. Oh, I didn't know that, Judy. So one of the watchers here has a daughter who's a Nashville Dominican. And there's some Nashville Dominicans who teach at the Angelicum. One of them's a professor of mine. Anyways, I just think it's important to... Actually, well, first we should thank Judy. I think it's a great sacrifice for someone's child to go to religious life. But it's really, it can be difficult when we, in the life of the church, when we sort of compare vocations. Obviously, there is a difference in the freedoms that people have to live their different vocations. So, but I think I've been really struck twice this Lent by the analogy that was made about the mosaic and the Christian life and the beauty of the church, with every tessera, every tile of the mosaic being different. Okay, let me talk more about this nun. She was just a spitfire. She was, it was funny. She kept saying after the war, dopo la guerra. But then she was talking about 1893, which is when the foundress of her community, who was a cloistered nun. So in one of the videos I put on Instagram, when she's going like, how do I do it? Let me bring my fingers down. When she's going like, making like a hashtag with her finger. I can't do it. Hold on, let me set my... At one point... I don't know how to do this. At one point, she went like this with her fingers. and I was teasing. I was telling everyone that she was telling everyone to use my hashtag Crux Stationalis and tag Crux Stationalis. She wasn't doing that. She was using that as a symbol for the cloister, that her foundress was a nun who was behind a cloister. And yet... And she was saying it was after the war, and she was looking around Palermo, and she saw just the sort of destitution of the city, and there was nothing to eat, and so she was inspired, and had the desire to go to Rome to what's the word I want to use? To fix, to re-inhabit San Sisto, because what had happened was the nuns had gone away. Actually, the nuns had gone away in the 1600s and had gone up to the Angelicum, which sits just behind here, to San Sisto Nuovo, and then there was even but then there were some nuns there, which were Irish Dominicans, and then with the Napoleonic restrictions, when all these monasteries and churches were seized and closed, something absolutely wicked. This monastery, there were horses that were in the refectory. There was a stable, the refectory. Then there was the unification of Italy, which some look at that positively, some look at that negatively. I've spoken about that. I forget when I spoke about it, but that happened in 1870. And so when she kept saying "dopo la guerra," after the war last night, I was thinking, of course for me, that my thought was World War II. But then I said, wait, she's talking also about 1893. So what is she talking about? So I think she was talking about the war, which basically was which was precisely the end of the Papal States and the unification of Italy, and also. Actually, no, I haven't spoken about it. I was interviewed for an article, and I mentioned it in there, and what had happened was basically the end of the Roman station church's practice, because with that war in 1870, also public processions were banned in the city. Any sort of things outside in the streets were illegal, because it was a reapplication of Napoleonic laws in Rome, which you just wonder why Pius IX signed off on the destruction of the Papal States. So there's a lot of history that goes behind it. So then in 1893, this place, San Sisto, was absolutely just empty because of Napoleon, but then, because of Napoleon. So it had been empty definitely for 90 years. So this nun, there was nothing to do in Palermo for this cloister. They were just destitute. So they came to Rome, and she had the desire to refound this monastery there. And now it's a very big complex. There's schools for all these for different ages of girls there, and anyway, so this is when the nun is like tapping her head, saying it was very intelligent. And the foundress is actually a servant of God. They're waiting for miracles to be approved, or for a miracle to happen. I don't even know if miracles have happened to be approved, but she was just telling us in a very animated way the story, and I just thought it was funny that she kept saying "dopo la guerra," after the war. And there was actually a woman that was in the group who was from Palermo, and this nun is from Calabria. So then the rest of the evening, they just had a huge rivalry, because there's a big rivalry that exists between the two, historically speaking anyways. And so it was cute. And they kept teasing each other about which one was better. And what else do I want to say? So then she took us to the refectory, and that was, again, when she was speaking about what was happening with Napoleon and the French and soldiers and everything. She cross. There's a priest over there going to the station. The station that we're going to is actually just right there. Saints Cosmas and Damian, who are mentioned in the Roman canon in the first Eucharistic prayer. They were physicians from what is modern day Turkey. I'll speak about them, and I'll speak about their martyrdom and this church and some other spiritual aspects of this day. They are the only two who, during the Roman Station Church, I don't know if it's in the new Missal, but in the old Missal, they are the only two whose names are mentioned in the collect itself. So that I'll definitely speak about that in the formal video. So anyways, this nun was telling us last night that this refectory is where St. Thomas would have eaten. St. Dominic, the founder. And there's a miracle that happened there. They when they first got there, they went begging, because the Dominicans are a mendicant order. They beg they ask alms for their sustenance. Let me get past this music and then I'll keep talking. They ask alms for their sustenance, and they went out begging, and they said, oh no, they came back empty-handed, and they had nothing for food that evening. So they're in the refectory, and there's no food for any of the friars because they had only encountered the poor. And so what had happened, they were sitting there, and all of a sudden these two angels came from the back rooms of the refectory with bread to feed the friars and St. Dominic. And that was a beautiful story to hear from her. And what else did I want to say about that? So she told us that story. What else did she tell us? She was just, it was just a joy. Then she teased because there was an American Dominican with us who's only been here for a couple months, and he doesn't, since Christmas, and he doesn't know much Italian. And so she kept teasing us, assuming that all of us foreigners didn't understand her. That was another story. I put up a video of her, and because when the French came with the Napoleonic invasion, they arrived there and they encountered these Dominicans, and the Roman Dominicans, the Italian Dominicans said, well, we don't know who these women are. They're not with us. And the joke was, they're Irish. So there's a sort of rivalry, because she actually assumed this Dominican was Irish, which he does. He lives at San Clemente. So we went to San Clemente 2 weeks ago, which is where the Irish Dominicans live. So here we are. I don't know if there's any questions. That was basically the gist of the story. Then she just showed us some other aspects, but it was so cute because she was basically, like I said, performing for my camera. She was posing, she was holding her mantle in a way which made it look very nice. It really worked for the photos that I was taking. This is beautiful with the sun here So anyways, we haven't walked that far, because the Angelicum, can we see no, we can't see the Angelicum, but there's the tower, and then the Angelicum is just right over there. So I've been talking a lot, but we haven't walked far. Let's go in. I don't know if there's going to be good service. Saints Cosmas and Damien. Yeah, it was cute what she was teasing. She was teasing him because she kept saying, Lo sai, do you know the story? Do you know the story? Do you know it? Do you know it? And he couldn't even say yes or no. So she was like, oh great, all you foreigners don't even know what I'm saying. And we're all like, no, we know what you're saying. It's just he doesn't know what you're saying. Here we find another mosaic, and actually, there's this courtyard here. Still here? So there's no service inside, at least not good enough for live streaming. So I was just gonna say, I was here in 2011. And I was given a tour by my professor, And while she was giving us the tour, we're sitting there just hearing our lesson in class. Here's one of these trees up close. There were people working. There were people working in the church, and they were sort of examining the choir, which in the apse, and they were doing some archaeological sort of dig, but just kind of digging behind the choir, and just on the wall, and they found a fresco that it was a hypothesis that this fresco would be there, and they discovered it, and it was really cool. We were there, and we just hear these cheers from the Italians and clapping because they found what they were looking for. So that was a good experience and a memory and something that's kind of a bond here. But I'm going to we'll discuss the Station Church in the formal video. I'll discuss Saints Cosmas and Damian. I'll discuss the Roman Missal. I'll discuss the Collect, and I'll discuss the art and the mosaic. And also, I want to speak just about Lent and Christ as divine physician. So that will be coming. It won't come today. I don't know if I'll manage a formal YouTube video today, but I have the weekend to catch up, because on Saturday we go to the Station Church of Santa Susanna, but we don't go there, so I won't be going to that Station Mass. Sunday there's a marathon in town, so it'll be impossible for me to get to the Roman Station Church, which is Santa Croce in Jerusalem, but I'll have a video on that. And tomorrow we go to San Lorenzo in Lucina, which is very beautiful. There's another Guido Reni painting there. So if you know much about myself and Crux Stationalis, you know that I'm a parishioner of Santissima Trinità dei Pellegrini, which has, in my mind, one of the most beautiful altarpieces in the world, painted by Guido Reni of the Blessed Trinity. And Christ is on the cross, and you have God the Father and the Holy Ghost. And there's another one where it's just the corpus of Christ, and that we'll see that tomorrow. And it's very Eucharistic, and it's very moving. So anyways, look at the sun just shining off of these buildings before we sign off. I'm guessing we're going to process outside because the Carabinieri's here. So they're either here for the procession, or they are just here for some other reason. But you never know. So anyways, thanks for joining the live, and I will see you soon. And if you haven't watched the video for, let me turn this around. If you haven't watched the video for Santa Pudenziana, make sure you watch that, because I explain the apse mosaic, the theology, the history of the apse mosaic from Santa Pudenziana. So God bless you, and I'll see you tomorrow.